You're alive.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome. This is a regular meeting of the Bangor City Council. Today is Monday, June 9th, 2025. It is 7 p.m. We begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to ask School Superintendent Marie Robinson to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're beginning tonight's meeting with a proclamation proclaiming June 19th as Juneteenth. Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you.
Is Councillor Miller on?
He is not.
He's not, so we're good for now. Thank you.
All right. Whereas the first Juneteenth celebration was in 1866, a year after Union soldiers, led by Major General Gordon Granger, landed at Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865, with news that the war had ended in April and that the enslaved were now free. And whereas this announcement was 2.5 years after President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1, 1863, that all persons held as slaves within the rebellious states are and henceforward shall be free. And whereas Juneteenth commemorates the determination of the people who were seized and brought to this country from Africa and whose descendants were enslaved for over 200 years before the horrific institution of slavery was abolished. And whereas Juneteenth commemorates that moment in time when the enslaved in Galveston, Texas received word of their freedom. As an anonymous celebrant said, we imagine the depth of their emotions, their jubilant dance, and their fear of the unknown. And whereas the city of Bangor believes it is important to recognize the historical significance of Juneteenth in order to advance racial equity, human dignity, and justice, and whereas Juneteenth, the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States, and what many people consider to be America's second Independence Day observance, is now a federal and state holiday and is also recognized by the city of Bangor. And whereas the city of Bangor acknowledges black Mainers are disproportionately impacted by poverty, which leads to higher rates of incarceration, food insecurity, and negative health impacts due to systemic racism. And whereas former President Barack Obama has said, Juneteenth has never been a celebration of victory or an acceptance of the way things are. It's a celebration of progress. It's an affirmation that despite the most painful parts of our history, change is possible, and there is still much work to do. Now therefore, I, Daniel Tremble, on behalf of Kara Pelletier, the Mayor of the City of Bangor, and on behalf of the City Council and the citizens of Bangor, do hereby proclaim June 19, 2025 as Juneteenth to honor African American history and encourage all community members to reflect on how each of us can promote equality, liberty, and justice for all people, given this 9th day of June 2025. And I think Athena Bryce from the local chapter of the NAACP is here to accept this proclamation. Thank you. If you'd like to say a few words.
Oh, I did not plan.
No.
Thank you, Councillor Trumbull, and thank you, Athena. We're glad to have you with us tonight. To me, Juneteenth is a reminder that words are not enough, that equality is something that has to be lived into and not just written on paper. And so we're delighted to recognize that this year. We are going to move into public comment. This is the portion of the meeting set aside for general public comment related to city business that do not appear on this evening's agenda. Public comment, whether in person or via Zoom, requires you to state your name and whether you're a resident of Bangor. The City Council has adopted a public comment policy that we will adhere to that governs topics, comments considered out of order, offensive, or confidential, and a time limit of 15 minutes at the beginning of the meeting, with the ability of the chair to reopen public comment at the conclusion of the regular business meeting. Each person is limited to 3 minutes during the public comment period. The public comment period is intended for City Council members to listen, not to respond or debate with persons during the public comment period, although we may ask questions. If you do not live in Bangor or own property in Bangor, please allow those who do to have the opportunity to speak first. If you'd like to offer comment on any item related to city business not appearing on the regular agenda, you may approach the podium. On Zoom, the public can be recognized to speak by utilizing the hand raise function or on the phone by pressing *9.
Good evening, members of the Bangor City Council. My name is Franciscoca Smith, and I'm president of Bangor for the last 13 years. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you again. This is my second time addressing the council to express my commitment for my immigrant community and to formally request your support for a critical need in our city, English language classes for evenings or weekends. Some new members and Mainers and non-English speakers in our city face language barriers that limit their ability to find jobs, access healthcare, support their children's education, and participate in civic life. Despite their strong desire to help and contribute to Bangor, many are held back because they lack access to affordable English language instruction. When immigrants are equipped with strong English skills, they can fill labor shortage essential industries, advance into higher paying roles, support local business as a worker consumers, and contribute more with taxes and civic engagement. Employers benefit from a stronger and adaptable workforce. Local business grow, and the entire city of Bangor will grow as well. That's why I'm here again to request fundings to provide evening or weekend ESOL classes for working immigrants and families that cannot access language education during the day. I'm respectfully asking you to explore the possibility of using the fundings for the Community Development Block Grant, which could be an excellent resource to support funding the ESOL programs and upcoming budget. I'm proposing a pilot program to offer free English classes designed to provide beginner and intermediate classes for a 1-year pilot program, providing 5 different sessions of 7 2-hour classes per week. I'm asking you today again for $5,000. You can see the breakdown in your paper, and the funding is to pay for the teachers. I already have a place to do it. Investing in English education is investing in Bangor's future, and we can help with that. In addition to that, I'm very excited to tell you that I'm organizing the first ever Bangor Multicultural Fair. It's going to be Saturday, September 27 from 10 to 1 at the Bangor Public Library. The goal is to celebrate diversity that makes our city vibrant and strong. And we are going to have cultural performance like salsa dancing, flamenco, dances from Mexico, India, Ireland, Peru, and the Robinson Ballet is also going to be there. I'm going to have speakers with different backgrounds, food vendors from different countries, tables with cultural displays from different countries as well. I'm going to have the kids section with a lot of different crafts and opportunities for networking and education for the people from Bangor and the new immigrants that are coming to our area. I will be honored to have you present and support at this event. You can be a guest, you can be a volunteer, you can even be a participant. Your involvement will send a power message to unity and inclusion. I'm asking you to help me also with funding or sponsorship, and thank you again for your time, for your service, and for considering this request. I'm happy to answer any questions that you need. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Councilor Trumbull?
I don't have a question. I just no, I don't have a question. Just a request. You did a great presentation last time. It was a nice presentation. I would just ask this could be put on the Business and Economic Development Committee agenda. Just coming here is not going to help you. If we can get on a committee agenda and have that discussion, I don't know if this qualifies for CDBG grants or not, but we can have that discussion and if we get on that committee agenda. So, and somebody will reach out to you to let you know. Hopefully, do we have our contact info? Do you know?
It is the paper as well, and I sent emails.
Oh, okay, it's on this. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Oh, I don't mind.
Okay. Good evening, City Councilors. My name is Carti, and I'm a resident of Bangor. I'm here tonight to speak about safe injection sites once again. I understand that the Council has previously indicated no intention of looking at this problem, so I want to approach it from a different light. The city spent a considerable amount of money on public restrooms, which were meant to serve our community. However, these facilities have in fact been turned into unsafe injection sites.
What do I mean by that? My team and I visit these sites frequently. Sometimes they are somewhat clean, with only a few needle caps and no immediate signs of fires being started inside. Other times, it's quite the opposite. They are alarmingly unsanitary and dangerous. One thing that was promised by this council was that these public restrooms would be well-maintained and usable at all times. Unfortunately, that promise is impossible to keep under the current circumstances. We have in practice inadvertently built and now maintain unsafe injection sites right here in our city. Instead of continuing to unintentionally support these dangerous spaces, let's build a proper safe injection site. Such a facility would not only provide a hygienic environment for drug use, I know, but critically would also expose individuals to follow recovery services. This is a stark contrast to them being exposed to the nastiness and hazards of an outhouse simply to inject drugs. I am doubtful that any of you on the council have actually used one of these public restrooms for their intended purpose. I certainly haven't, and I wouldn't recommend it. If you truly want these public facilities to be used for their intended purposes as clean, safe restrooms for all residents, then establishing a safe injection site is a necessary step. Otherwise, by neglecting this issue, you are effectively condoning people injecting drugs in conditions that are unsafe, unhealthy, and undignified. And I thank you for that. And I also want to just quickly bring up, I sent you all an email regarding the taxes. And I think it's really important that if you do have reserves monies, the city has reserves money, don't spend the money and then raise the taxes if you must. But spend that money first so we're not burdening the people that can least afford it. I can afford to pay my taxes, there's no question. But there's plenty that can't. And this is really a dire situation. It really is. I know that it is, and I've talked to many people about it. So please keep that in mind before actually harming people that elected you, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have anything written to pass out, but I'm happy to put something in an email if you need it. Hello, my name is Maryanne Larson, and I live here in Bangor. I have a condo at the Orchard Hills complex, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak, but also for all the work that you do for us. I have a specific ask. It's a public health issue, and that is to consider prioritizing painting crosswalks. Most of the crosswalks in the city are pretty much devoid of paint at this point, and I think it looks like you're beginning to do some painting and paving and so forth. So, and the reason I'm asking that is this is just some statistics from the Bicycle Coalition of Maine. So far in 2025, there have been 69 crashes involving pedestrians. I think there was a person died here in Bangor earlier this year. There have been 8 fatalities so far, 30 cyclist crashes with 1 fatality. Just in Maine alone, in Bath, there was a BIW employee hit on the way to work walking. A Waterville resident struck by a truck that had to be airlifted then to Bangor. A Sanford biker who was killed in town, Sanford, and a Camden woman, downtown Camden, who was hit by a car crossing the street. So there are a lot of distracted drivers out there. I know this because I've been that distracted driver myself at times. So I think the situation needs some attention. I don't think we want that kind of thing happening again in the city. So I wanted to throw that out there to see if you would consider prioritizing the painting of the crosswalks. And thank you again for your work.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to offer public comment? Seeing none, don't see any hands online. Okay, we're going to move on to the regular agenda. I think we need to start with a roll call vote because I believe Councillor Maller's here. We'll just take a vote for attendance.
Councillor Beck?
Yes.
Councillor Dean?
Yes.
Councillor Fish?
Yes.
Councillor Fournier?
Present.
Councillor Haas is absent. Councillor Leonard?
Present.
Councillor Mallard?
Present.
Councillor Trumbull?
Here.
Councillor Pelletier?
Yes.
8 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. Consent agenda.
Minutes of City Council meeting of May 28th, 2025. Business and Economic Development Committee meetings of January 27th, 2025 and April 23rd, 2025. Finance Committee meeting of May 5th, 2025 and Government Operations Committee meeting of June 2nd, 2025. 25-188 order adopting the written decision and order for 271 Elm Street. 25-189 order assuring and certifying the city's compliance with certain requirements for FY25 Community Development Block Grant Funds. 25-190 order amending the schedule of fees by updating sewer rates starting July 1, 2025. 25-191 order authorizing the city manager to execute amendments to the lease agreement with the Bangor Farmers Market Association.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
A second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Since Councilor Maller's online, we'll have to do everything with roll call vote tonight. Roll call.
Councilor Beck?
Yes.
Councilor Dean?
Yes.
Councilor Fish?
Yes.
Councilor Fournier?
Yes.
Councilor Leonard?
Yes.
Councilor Maller?
Yes.
Councilor Trumbull?
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
Consent agenda has passage. Referrals to committee and first reading.
25-192 ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances to create a commercial property assessed clean energy program, first reading and referral to Business and Economic Development Committee on June 16th, 2025. 25-193 ordinance amending Chapter 223 Property Maintenance, Article 2 Vacant Buildings, first reading. 25-194 resolve making an appropriation for the total school budget for the Bangor School Department as required by 28 MRS Section 156904A, first reading. 25-195 resolve approving school department estimates of revenue and budget, trust and agency fund, first reading. 25-196 resolve approving school department estimates of revenue from state sources and budget enterprise fund, first reading. 25-197 resolve approving school department estimates of revenue from state sources and budget special revenue fund, first reading. 25-198 resolve making an appropriation of $451,792 for adult education for the Bangor School Department as required by 28 MRS Section 8603A1, first reading. 25-199 resolve vocational education region number 4 appropriation pursuant to Title 20A, Chapter 606, 15601 to 15619, Maine Revised Statutes, first reading. 25-200 resolve making an appropriation of $2,380,000 for non-state funded debt service allocation for the Bangor School Department as required by 28 MRS Section 156902A, first reading. 25-201 resolve making an appropriation for the Bangor School Department in excess of the minimum spending target established by 20A MRS Section 15671A4, first reading. 25-202 resolve making an appropriation of $19,520,915 for the school district contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-K to grade 12 as required by 20A MRS Section 156901A-B, first reading. 25-203 resolve appropriation for municipal year 2026, first reading. 25-204 resolve appropriating funds for various capital purposes utilizing various reserves, trust and agency accounts, and other funds for expenditures to be made during fiscal year 2026, first reading. 25-205 resolve appropriating downtown TIF funds for expenditures to be made in fiscal year 2026, first reading. 25-206 resolve appropriating $833,882 of fiscal year 2025 Community Development Block Grant Funding and $250,000 in anticipated program income, first reading. 25-207 resolve authorizing the city manager to accept and appropriate $1,543,120 in grant funds from United States Housing and Urban Development to fund the Bangor Rental Assistance Program, first reading and referral to Government Operations Committee on June 16th, 2025. 25-208 resolve authorizing the city manager to accept and appropriate an additional $27,801 in grant funds from Maine Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to fund Bangor Public Health and Community Services Women, Infants, and Children Program, first reading.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Move these items be referred.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion. We have a second. Roll call vote.
Councilor Beck?
Yes.
Councilor Dean?
Yes.
Councilor Fish?
Yes.
Councilor Fournier?
Yes.
Councilor Leonard?
Yes.
Councilor Mallard?
Yes.
Councilor Trumbull?
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
Items are referred. Unfinished business.
25-177 order authorizing execution of 2 land lease agreements with Enterprise Rent-A-Car Company of Boston LLC. Councilor Fournier.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Chair, I move passage of Council Order 25-177.
Second.
Madam Chair, I move to amend Council Order 25-177 by substitution to replace it with the amended order that has been provided to the council.
Second.
There's a motion to amend. Needs to do a roll call vote on the motion to amend.
Councilor Beck?
Yes.
Councilor Dean?
Yes.
Councilor Fish?
Yes.
Councilor Fournier?
Yes.
Councilor Leonard?
Yes.
Councilor Mallard?
Yes.
Councilor Trumbull?
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
Motion has passage.
Madam Chair, I move for passage of Council Order 25-177 as amended.
Second.
This order will authorize the city manager to execute 2 land lease agreements with Enterprise, one for a parcel owned by Bangor International Airport, 18,311 square feet, map 1, lot 1N, and the other by the city of Bangor, 37,731 square feet, map R25, lot 27. The leases have been separated for internal administrative clarity, but the intent and terms remain aligned. The term of these individual leases are 5 years with 3 5-year renewal options anticipated to begin June 16 of this year. Enterprise agrees to pay Bangor International Airport as rent for the premises at a yearly rate of $12,000 payable in equal monthly installment of $1,000 on or before the 10th of each calendar month during the term, and prorated for the fractional portion of any month. Enterprise agrees to pay the city of Bangor as rent for the premises at a yearly rate of $24,000 and payable in equal monthly installments of $2,000 on or before the 10th of each calendar month during the term, and prorated for the fractional portion of any month.
Thank you, Councilor Fournier. We have a motion. We have a second. Questions or discussion on this item? Roll call vote.
Councilor Beck?
Yes.
Councilor Dean?
Yes.
Councilor Fish?
Yes.
Councilor Fournier?
Yes.
Councilor Leonard?
Yes.
Councilor Mallard?
Yes.
Councilor Trumbull?
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
25-177 has passage as amended. Next item.
25-179 ordinance amending Chapter 165 Land Development Code by adding flexibility to the reconstruction requirements for existing manufactured home parks constructed prior to 1971. Councilor Dean.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This ordinance amendment would amend the Land Development Code by adding flexibility to the reconstruction requirements for existing manufactured home parks constructed prior to 1971. The current ordinance for existing parks would be difficult, if not impossible, to comply with for parks constructed prior to 1971, to the extent that a decrease in homes in the park may result if the owners wish to make changes. Some of the biggest barriers include lot size, width, and length requirements. The proposed amendments would reduce these requirements and eliminate the requirement that existing parks demonstrate hardship in order to be able to use the more flexible standards. The amendment also clarifies the requirements for landscaping, roadways, recreation areas, and other aspects of the park, such as utilities. This item was reviewed and unanimously recommended by the Planning Board on June 3rd, 2025. I move passage of Council Ordinance 25-179.
Second.
Thank you, Counselor Dean. We have a motion. We have a second. Questions or discussion on this item? Roll call vote.
Counselor Beck?
Yes.
Counselor Dean?
Yes.
Counselor Fish?
Yes.
Counselor Fournier?
Yes.
Counselor Leonard?
Yes.
Counselor Mallard?
Yes.
Counselor Trimble?
Yes.
Counselor Pelletier?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
25-179 has passage. Next item.
25-180 ordinance amending Chapter 165 Land Development Code by removing the limitations on number and square footage of temporary commercial vendors in a waterfront development district. Councilor Fish.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This ordinance amendment would amend the Land Development Code by removing the limitations on the number of square footage of temporary commercial vendors in the Waterfront Development District, WDD. Currently, temporary sales of food, i.e. food trucks, and merchandise are limited by the Land Development Code to 5 vendors per lot in the WDD zone and 10 in the whole district. The ordinance also limits the total combined square footage for all temporary structures on lot to 1,000 square feet. This poses a problem even for the current allowance of 5 vendors at the waterfront, since each vendor takes up about 450 square feet of space. There is an existing policy for commercial vendors at the waterfront that puts controls on temporary sales like food trucks and fine-tuned to meet the needs of this area. Additionally, interest has been expressed in having additional food trucks at the waterfront during the summer season, which would bring additional visitors to this area. Therefore, this amendment would remove the limits on the number of square footage on the temporary vendors in this zone. This item was reviewed and unanimously recommended by the Planning Board on June 3rd, 2025. I move for passage of Council Order 25-180.
Second?
Thank you, Counselor Fish. We have a motion. We have a second. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilor Beck?
Yes.
Councilor Dean?
Yes.
Councilor Fish?
Yes.
Councilor Fournier?
Yes.
Councilor Leonard?
Yes.
Councilor Mallard?
Yes.
Councilor Trimble?
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
25-180 has passage. Next item.
25-181 resolve accepting and appropriating $679,000 from the Maine Fire Protection Services Commission for the construction of a new fire live training building for the Bangor Fire Department. Councilor Trimble.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Chair, I move for passage of Resolve 25-181.
Second.
This would accept and appropriate $679,000 from the Maine Fire Protection Services Commission for the construction of a new fire live training building for the Bangor Fire Department. Council Order 25-064 authorized the Fire Department to apply for funding from the Maine Fire Protection Services Commission for the construction of a new live training facility meeting National Fire Protection Association standards. The current training facility located at 201 Odland Road was constructed over 38 years ago and used extensively by Bangor Fire and Police Departments, as well as mutual aid fire departments and others. In 2021, Public Law 444, Title 20A, MRSA 9004, was established to provide funding to construct new and repair existing live fire training facilities. The goal of this program is to have facilities that meet NFPA standards within an hour's travel time for at least 90% of Maine's firefighters. This item was reviewed and recommended at the Government Operations Committee meeting on May 19th.
Thank you, Councilor Trumbull. We have a motion. We have a second. Is there any questions or discussion on this item? Roll call vote.
Councilor Beck?
Yes.
Councilor Dean?
Yes.
Councilor Fish?
Yes.
Councilor Fournier?
Yes.
Councilor Leonard?
Yes.
Councilor Mallard?
Yes.
Councilor Trimble?
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
25-181 has passage. Next item.
25-182 resolve authorizing the city manager to accept and appropriate $951,845 from the Maine Department of Health and Human Services to implement the Maine Prevention Network. Councilor Beck.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This resolve authorizes the city manager to accept and appropriate $951,845 from the Maine Department of Health and Human Services to implement the Maine Prevention Network in the Penquist Public Health District for a 12-month period beginning July 1st, 2025. Bangor Public Health will be responsible for providing prevention services, including substance use prevention, tobacco prevention, and promotion of healthy eating and active living throughout the Penquist Public Health District. We will provide direct prevention services in Penobscot County and subcontract direct prevention service in Piscataquis County to Northern Light Mayo Community Outreach. Bangor Public Health and Community Services has been providing these prevention services since 2007. This is a third period of performance with the option of additional extensions ending June 30th, 2032. This item was reviewed and recommended at the Government Operations Committee meeting on May 19th, 2025. Madam Chair, I move passage of Resolve 25-182.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Beck. We have a motion, we have a second. Discussion on this item. Roll call vote.
Councilor Beck?
Yes.
Councilor Dean?
Yes.
Councilor Fish?
Yes.
Councilor Fournier?
Yes.
Councilor Leonard?
Yes.
Councilor Mallard?
Yes.
Councilor Trumbull?
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
25-182 has passage. Next item.
25-183, resolve appropriating special assessment funds for Bangor Center Development District expenditures to be made in fiscal year 2026. Councilor Leonard.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I make a motion on 25-183.
Second.
This resolve will appropriate $265,566 in funds from the Municipal Development District Special Assessment for expenditures to be made for the Bangor Center Development District Program. Budget highlights include marketing, $91,962, beautification, $46,282, events, $48,085, networking and outreach, $10,212, safety and security, $316,159, general and admin, $88,356, totaling $601,602. The balance of the funding beyond the special assessment funding of $265,566 is comprised of downtown TIF funds in partial support of general and administration costs, funds raised by Downtown Bangor Partnership through sponsorships, marketing and events, and anticipated additional funds requested for the services from Street Plus. This item was reviewed and recommended at the Council Budget Workshop on May 7th, 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Leonard. We have a motion, we have a second. Questions or discussion on this item? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilor Beck?
Yes.
Councilor Dean?
Yes.
Councilor Fish?
Yes.
Councilor Fournier?
Yes.
Councilor Leonard?
Yes.
Councilor Mallard?
Yes.
Councilor Trumbull?
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
25-183 has passage. New business.
Public hearing, 25-209, order authorizing execution and filing with the Department of Housing and Urban Development for FY25 Annual Action Plan for Community Development Entitlement Block Grant Funding under Title I of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974. Councilor Fournier.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Chair, I'm going to read the summary and then open the public hearing. This order will authorize the city's Community Development Block Grant Program for the coming year under Title I of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 with the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The city has been an entitlement community under this program since 1987. The city expects to receive $833,082 in federal community development block grant funds. In addition, we estimate that approximately $250,000 will be available in program income, primarily as a result of repayments of outstanding property rehabilitation loans. Among the projects eligible to be funded in the coming year are property rehabilitation, ownership assistance, neighborhood and downtown public improvements, including parks, social service, and nonprofit funding, acquisition, demolition, and clearance activities, and aiding in the retention and/or creation of affordable housing units. Madam Chair, I'd like to open up the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Roll call vote.
Councilor Beck?
Yes.
Counselor Dean?
Yes.
Counselor Fish?
Yes.
Counselor Fournier?
Yes.
Counselor Leonard?
Yes.
Counselor Mallard?
yes,
Counselor Trimble?
Yes.
Counselor Pelletier?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
Public hearing is open.
Seeing nobody approach, I'd like to close the public hearing.
Second?
There's a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Roll call vote.
Counselor Beck?
Yes?
Counselor Dean?
Yes.
Counselor Fish?
Yes.
Counselor Fournier?
Yes.
Counselor Leonard?
Yes.
Counselor Mallard?
yes,
Counselor Trimble?
Yes.
Counselor Pelletier?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
Public hearing is closed.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion for passage of Order 25-209.
Second?
Thank you, Councilor Fournier. We have a motion. We have a second. No comments or discussion. Roll call vote.
Counselor Beck?
Oh, Councilor Beck.
Yes, I just wanted to state, in the action plan attached to this, it doesn't make a mention of the $200,000 for paving. And I have concerns that it does mention the $233,000 for the playground, and it does mention paving under that category, but the numbers don't add up. And I'm just concerned if we're giving this to the federal government, what I'm really concerned about is we're supplementing our budget with CDBG funds. Because if we did not have these funds, we wouldn't stop paving our roads. And I just feel like that's over half of our CDBG funds is going to one playground and paving roads. And I don't feel like that's the highest and best use of CDBG funds. Because these are community development block grant funds, not community property tax assistance funds. I just feel that we need housing, we need other things, and I just feel like this does not align with what the community meetings that took place, the neighborhood meetings, the allocations don't line up with that. I would like to at least see us be forthright about the paving and add that $200,000 into this action report and say, yes, we're using that money to pave our roads. That's my objection.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Counselor Beck?
No.
Counselor Dean?
Yes.
Counselor Fish?
Yes.
Counselor Fournier?
Yes.
Counselor Leonard?
No.
Counselor Mallard?
no,
Counselor Trimble?
Yes.
Counselor Pelletier?
Yes.
5 yes, 3 no.
25-209 has passage. Next item.
25-210 order authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Bangor Center Management Corporation doing business as Downtown Bangor Partnership. Counselor Leonard.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I make a motion on 25-210.
Second.
This order authorizes the city manager to execute a contract with the Bangor Center Management Corporation doing business as Downtown Bangor Partnership for the purpose of providing management services and administration to the development program for the Bangor Center Development District for the period of July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. The proposed budget is $601,062. The revenue consists of $265,566 in special assessment funds, $273,746 in TIF funds, and $61,750 from sponsorships, events, and marketing for a total of $601,062. This item was reviewed at a budget workshop on May 7th, 2025.
Thank you, Councilor Leonard. We have a motion. We have a second. Is there any discussion on this item? Roll call vote.
Counselor Beck?
Yes.
Counselor Dean?
Yes.
Counselor Fish?
Yes.
Counselor Fournier?
Yes.
Counselor Leonard?
Yes.
Counselor Mallard?
yes,
Counselor Trimble?
Yes.
Counselor Pelletier?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
25-210 has passage. Councilor Fournier?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules to consider Council Order 25-211 which would authorize the city manager to renegotiate the development agreement for the property located at 8 Harlow Street.
Second?
There's a motion, there's a second. Roll
Point of
call.
order? Madam Chair?
The motion can't be debated or?
Not a debate, it's a point of order, madam.
Okay,
Point of order is that the motion is improper and out of order, as what we're attempting to suspend is an ordinance, a local law, which trumps Robert's Rules of Order.
can the city solicitor make a comment on that?
Yeah, well, there's no debate on a motion to suspend the rules, and I disagree with that. It's a rule that can be suspended, and the vehicle for doing so is a motion to suspend the rules. The vehicle for taking up this order is via motion to suspend the rules.
Thank you. Roll call vote?
Counselor Beck?
No.
Counselor Dean?
Yes.
Counselor Fish?
Yes.
Counselor Fournier?
Yes.
Counselor Leonard?
No.
Counselor Mallor?
No.
Counselor Tremble?
Yes.
Counselor Pelletier?
Yes.
5 yes, 3 no.
Okay, motion to suspend the rules fails. So this will push the development agreement for 8 Harlow Street to the next regular city council meeting, is that correct? Thank you. Brings us to the end of the regular agenda for this evening. Any comments from staff? Closing comments from council? Councilor Fish?
Good night.
Councilor Trumbo?
Yeah, good night.
Councilor Beck?
Night.
Councilor Dean?
Good night, Bangor.
Councilor Leonard?
Good night.
Councilor Fournier?
Good night.
Councilor Mallor?
Good night.
Before I say goodnight, 2 things. I had the opportunity to go on a tour of our Public Works Department in the last week. That was one of the tours I had not done yet in my 3 years on council, and it was impressive to say the least. One of the things I learned that I did not know is we print a lot of our own street signs and traffic signs in-house. There's a very neat shop, and everything was far cleaner than my house, like very organized, spick and span. Super impressive work that team does. So thanks to that team for allowing me to poke around and see what it's all about. The other thing I'd like to add was last night was the memorial service for Charlie Howard, and to thank the organizers of the Bangor Pride Festival. It was very well attended. It was very moving. They actually had some of Charlie Howard's teachers from high school who knew him back in the 80s when he was alive and with us speak, and it was just a lovely ceremony and very well attended. So stuff like that takes time and effort to put together. A lot of community love there last night. Really appreciate it. With that, we are adjourned.